What I was really happy to see yesterday was when we met with life groups with students, and so it was National Star Wars Day, right?
Oh, no.
I did a survey with students. Now, a lot of them don't have much of an opinion about it, like you. Some of them, some of the students maybe had some strong opinions, but when I asked them, all right, who likes the prequels, like episodes 1, 2, and 3, hardly any hands went up. No, actually, no hands went up. And then I said, all right, well, who likes the latest trilogy, like episodes 7, 8, and 9? Maybe a hand went up or something. And I was like, okay, well, who likes the original trilogy? And everyone's hands went up. I'm like, yes, that is great. I love that. That's still the
original thing. Still wins.
Because it always bothers me. Like, I was really into Star Wars, especially like junior high and all this, like, because that's when they re-released the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And it was like a box set. I have it in my office, VHS tapes. But when they re-released that was like Star Wars became a big deal again, and it was in theaters again. Like they were showing the trilogy.
Yeah.
It was this huge thing. And then later, whenever they start doing all this newer stuff, it's like, well, I thought I knew everything about it, but now I don't. Like, especially with these newer movies, I don't know any like that much about it.
I think I like dated a guy in high school that was like really into like the Star Wars movies, and I remember him being like, oh my gosh, you have to watch all of the, like, because the new ones, I guess, had, like, started coming out, right? Was that in high school? Well, you're, like, a little older than me. Did, like, a new one come out when we were, I'm trying to remember.
I was already doing, no, you would not have been in high school when that one, now, unless it was, like, the third episode, the Rise of the Sith,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know any of them. Ethan, have you seen them?
I have. It's been a while.
Because it's Phantom Menace, then it's Attack of the Clones, then it's the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. So it may have been that one. That one I would know. I was like in high school when that one was coming out.
Okay. I bet it was that because
these other newer ones didn't come out till like a couple of years ago, it seems like.
Because I hadn't seen any of I guess I'd seen the older ones, but it had been like a long time. Yeah. But anyway, I haven't seen any of the Star Wars movies in forever. This is why yesterday I was like, I'm not going to say May the 4th be with you because I'll look like a poser, you know? I'm like, I think it's cute.
Like, say your favorite movie.
Yeah, what's your favorite episode?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know. Han Solo? Like, I don't know.
Good answer.
You actually know a name. Now, if you're like, I like Jar Jar Binks. Boo.
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 Why is that boo?
Oh, okay.
No.
You'll see. I like the Ewoks.
Boo.
R2-D2?
Oh, yeah.
Yay. Okay. C-3PO? Is C-3PO still cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's there.
All right.
Yeah. He was the Jar Jar Binks back in the day, but I think people kind of learned to love him. Still not Jar Jar Binks.
Baby Yoda? Is that like
his name is Grogu?
That's much newer. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
That's the thing. I don't know any of those newer like shows. Right. I've never watched The Mandalorian and this Andor that's out right now, and all these other shows. Because I'm like, y'all, like, I just like the trilogy. I know there's books and all this other stuff. Like, the trilogies to me is all that exists. I'm just going to focus on that.
Well, you missed something, too, by not going to the theater. Everything's out on Disney Plus and subscriptions and stuff now. Yeah. You can binge watch a show in a day and forget so many details. But there's something about going to a theater and being part of the experience of it. Yeah.
It's like a true artist speaking. Go to your theater. Support your theaters.
There it is.
Support all that. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Next Day Podcast.
The podcast where we talk about Star Wars. Just kidding. The next day on your discipleship journey.
This would be the worst podcast. Because so many people would like, technically, you're wrong on this.
Oh, my gosh. I love how you actually. Well, actually.
Jar Jar Binks is actually one of the, like, oh gosh. But maybe some of you are still listening. Maybe not.
We're going to get to the good stuff. Let's do this.
Right when I walked in, I just walked into the office a little while ago, and there was Ethan. Oh, yeah, we're joined by Ethan, everybody.
Hello. It's been a while. It's probably been
Ethan.
since February or so.
I think
but
so.
I'm back.
I know.
He's here.
Yeah. But I walked in. Ethan was talking with Christy about some recipe, and he was going into detail, and he was near one of these mics. And I was like, are y'all doing a cooking podcast right now?
On the side.
That may be better than our Star Wars podcast.
Oh, for sure.
Sharing recipes and sharing stuff like that.
Oh, I could talk about that.
Which I will say, a show that I listened to, it's on NPR, but I'm sure you can find the podcast. It's Milk Street Radio, and they do it's like a whole cooking thing. I am not a cook at all. Like, I don't know that much, but I get so sucked into listening to the show and people calling in with their questions. And these people who are hosting the show, it's like they know everything. They know how to fix every single recipe. They know every little thing.
I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah, and the guy's voice, who one of the hosts of it, it's like very soothing. I really like it.
Like mine.
Yes. You have a very masculine voice.
What about mine?
Yeah, cooking. Well, anyways, the next day podcast. This is where we're maybe talking about the sermons. And if you haven't guessed what day this is May 5th. Hey, happy Cinco de Mayo!
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
But it's the day after Star Wars Day, because that's what we were talking about. May the 4th be with you. But yeah, we're going to be talking about the sermons. So maybe you got to hear Christy in the Element. Maybe you got to hear Pat in the traditional service, or you got to hear Carl over at the West Campus. I got to hear Pat and Christy.
Yay.
And you got to hear Carl, so I need you to share everything about that and all your critiques.
Oof, okay.
And
mental notes coming up.
Yeah.
All the critiques, yeah.
Just critiques, yes.
All right, well, let's get to our icebreaker. And what was your favorite Star Wars character? Let's go into deep dive. No.
Yeah, okay.
I have three. Actually, I really have no idea what these cards are now because I have not looked at them in a while. So, Ethan, 1, 2, or 3. Pick this card. Pick a card.
2.
Going for the middle one. He said, it is, what was your favorite subject in school?
Ooh.
Your favorite subject in school, was it? And they even have a little picture of math, science, history, but I guess...
Oh, I thought it was going to be a multiple choice question. You said, is it? And I was like, oh, it's a test. There's a wrong answer.
I don't know.
So, I don't know if you pick a certain grade level.
Like
I
school
know,
or like college? Like, what are we talking?
I don't know. We could break it up. Because I know whenever I was in elementary school, I loved it's probably like history and like some science. Because at that age in elementary school, it really was like, anytime we talked about astronomy, especially in elementary school, I felt like I think I knew more than a teacher.
So is
at
astronomy
times.
your answer?
Yes, because it's out of this world.
Haha.
Which, by the way, today, apparently Halley's Comet is going to be flying over, but it's going to be all rainy around the Houston area, so we're not going to be able to see it.
Isn't that like, it's one of those that's like very rare, right?
I think so. I remember seeing Hale-Bopp like way long, and it stayed up in the sky for a good while, and it was kind of eerie seeing this thing up in the sky for like several nights in a row, just slowly making its way
Oh my gosh.
through. It's kind of odd. But anyways, yeah, that was my elementary answer. I guess in junior high and high school, maybe it was English, because I got to, I don't know. I'm not going to say I just love writing stuff, but sometimes I enjoy the creativity of
Not
writing
theater?
papers. Well, yeah, like I'm trying to think of typical stuff.
Okay,
Yeah, I
okay.
definitely like theater and lunch and swim
Lunch.
team and things like that. But I guess English, and where I got to write some papers, because it allowed me to be creative and stuff like that. I did not like diagramming sentences and certain other grammar stuff. I still don't know what a dangling participle is. I don't even know if we could say that on here, but I still don't know what certain things are. But I still enjoyed it.
All right. Do you have one?
I do. I would say, I think back to high school, and I would say English class, just because we all have that like one professor that we really like stick with.
Well, y'all had professors in high school?
Really? Well, I considered him like a professor. I think he was overqualified for like Houston Public High School. But yeah, he was just somebody that really engaged with students, really kind of took into account like our personal opinions and our writing styles, didn't impress anything onto us. He just figured out who we were and then inspired us to continue writing with our personality and kind of bring out our own personal talents. So that's one that sticks with me.
Nice.
Yeah. I think probably like English, I would think was probably my favorite, but specifically the writing too. Like I was not super interested in the reading. Still not that interested. But
I wish I would have got more into the readings, but
I
at
did
the time I was not into Tale of Two Cities. And
no, we did read some Jane Austen, and I loved reading that.
See, that sounds so boring to me.
I loved that, and I don't know. It was just like a very relaxing read.
Yeah.
And I still feel like that. So I read a little bit of Jane Austen, but
I remember we had to read the Iliad. And
we did too, but I cannot remember it.
Yeah, we had to read it, but then what I did was, like most people, I read the Cliff Notes online. But I do remember reading the summary, and I remember thinking, dang, this is a good book. And I was really enjoying reading it, and I was like, why am I not just reading the actual book? But I feel like it really helped me get into it more. I think I did have to go back and read the book because those teachers know how to do a test that doesn't go with the Cliff Notes. Do you have a favorite college one? Your seminary? What was your favorite thing to learn in seminary?
Oh, Old Testament. My Old Testament classes for sure.
Any Old Testament class? Yeah.
Well, I mean, so in seminary, I don't. It's probably different with different schools. At Perkins for the MDiv, you take Old Testament 1 and then Old Testament 2, and so you do like, the Pentateuch, you kind of get through like some of like the.
Oh, then you do the prophets,
and then you do the prophets,
wisdom literature, and
yeah. So, anyway, I loved the Old Testament one. Was like, well, I mean, both of them. Mm-hmm. It was just, oh my gosh, all of it was good. I was talking to my husband yesterday, and I was like, I wish that I could like go back and not get graded, because I think that is what really like that just really stressed me out so much, like just knowing I was getting getting graded on things and like finishing tasks. But I'm like, I just want to go back and like listen to the lectures and just like take a bunch of notes. Like that was so good. And I feel like I'm already like I'm a year out from graduation and I'm already like, gosh, I'm forgetting things.
Such a nerd. No. You want to take my my classes right now?
I will like be doing more. I can't. I don't think I'll ever stop learning. It's so good.
I know my classes now. I've really enjoyed. I'm surprised. One of my favorites so far is ethics, or Christian ethics, and all this. That was a really good one. But now the class I'm taking right now is like early Methodism and Wesleyan history and all that. I'm really enjoying it. So it's been really good. Do you have a favorite seminary?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Or college.
Y'all
or
don't
college.
know. I'll cut in as my business point of view, I guess. This was all the professor's doing, and yes, he was a professor because this was college.
All right.
It was so advanced business statistics, which sounds like the least fun class, and it was one of those. No computers. Everything was handwritten out. Test questions were 1 to a page because you had to write out every single step. It was essentially, if Excel didn't exist, how would you handwrite?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, these advanced problems for budgeting and for capital and for analysis for a business.
They're preparing you for the apocalypse.
You're waiting for
the apocalypse.
You're going to be ready for Y2K.
The next ice age or something crazy. Yeah. But it was really just the professor, like the way that he took hold of the subject, and he was also on like on the program for graduation and stuff like that. So he had a lot of juniors and seniors that he was just really inspired, like getting us to come to class instead of just watching it online, and helping us out with tests and projects and things like that. So just like a true educator, and he was a Sam Houston alum as well. So Yeah.
That's
yeah.
why. That's
and
why
there's where we draw the line.
That's why y'all didn't have computers because you went to Sam Houston. And
I'm
No.
kicked out of the podcast.
They taught you math.
Go
by
home
counting-
now.
Said the forbidden
They taught you
word.
math by counting your fingers and toes.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, y'all are so ridiculous.
I only say that because I was at SFA, so SFA and Sam Houston are kind of longtime rivals, even though now they're in completely different ranks now and all that.
Sure.
Anyways, well, maybe y'all have a favorite subject, and maybe your favorite subject is listening to the Next Day podcast. This is like your weekly class.
That's my favorite.
You like listening to the different, our commentary on the different sermons and all that we got to do. So we just started a new sermon series, and it is over. Dun-dun-dun, 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 dun-dun-dun,
Family Feud.
dun-dun-dun.
wasn't done.
I know. Sorry, he's still singing.
Hold
Hold on, this musical break is gonna.
No.
Yep.
So Family Feud. Do y'all like the show? Like, do y'all watch Family Feud?
I did like
A little
it.
bit, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
anytime it's on, it's always good just to have on, and you could always just get sucked into watching it, and you're just like, "That's a stupid answer." Oh, they actually made it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yelling at your TV.
I did.
and-
I did watch it. That was one of the shows I did watch. You know,
When you didn't have TV
when
you were little.
back in the day, but I haven't seen it in years. But
Yeah.
I did enjoy that show.
But yeah, Family Feuds, looking at different feuds in the Bible and especially within family structures, and there's plenty of them in there. I don't know how y'all narrowed it down to a few.
It was tough.
Yeah, but this last one, the one that we got to hear on Sunday, is a very short little story in the Bible. There's really not much there, which is why it was easy to just do one sermon.
I know
over.
you're just he is just poking at me because I was like yelling around the office this week, like, why did we do this to ourselves?
It's the story of Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat. Even though it never
Yes.
says Technicolor, it's just a
Technicolor.
yeah.
Just a rainbow color.
Do y'all think of Donny Osmond when I say that?
Who's that?
Donny Osmond?
I don't know who that is, Chad.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I just remember there was like he was in like Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, and I remember there was always this infomercial when I was little, and they were really pushing it because he was in it, and he was in this very colorful rainbowy robe. And anyways, okay, I lost everybody. So
No,
you probably made everyone angry for not knowing who Donny Osmond is.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm
Donny
just,
and Marie.
I don't know things.
He's
okay?
a little bit country. Wait, she's a little bit country. He's a little bit rock and roll.
Maybe that sounds familiar,
Okay.
but I don't know.
Anyways.
Things I just have never paid
Anyway,
attention
we talked
to.
about Joseph in Genesis, and not Joseph, Jesus Daddy, but we're talking about Joseph.
Did not just say daddy on this podcast.
Carl said that too during his stand-up routine at our
I
talent
actually
show
said
yesterday.
it. I actually said it in my sermon, and then like as I'm
I
preaching,
heard it.
Yeah, Carl took
preaching,
the.
I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
No, what did he do?
Carl took a jab at nepotism too, because he talked about how his brother used to be what was it, head of SPRC.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
SPRC, and he was like, "Yeah, just good old-fashioned nepotism." But you know who else worked at the family member? Jesus. His dad was the boss, and it got him pretty far.
Where did he say that?
At the talent
The
show.
talent
the
show, he
talent
did
show.
stand-up comedy.
Oh, that's
It
good.
was that and a lot of commentary about what temperature salsa should be. Yeah.
Wow.
Like Virginia versus Texas. We have a lot of warm salsa here.
Wait, so he was saying he doesn't like warm salsa.
He just doesn't understand it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought he was for it. And I was like, I can agree with. Okay, so
No,
he's
no, that's
weird
why he
now.
got booed.
He only likes cold salsa.
When he started coming after Texas, yeah,
okay.
he got booed off.
Wow, man, get the hook.
No, but yeah, Joseph in Genesis, and the son of Jacob. And am I right, Jacob? Yeah.
Yes,
Sometimes,
yes.
sometimes these names get all mixed up to me,
Yes.
even though I know the stories. But yeah, and yeah, so there's definitely feuding there with that family.
Yes,
So-
I was like, we could have probably made this entire sermon series just on this story.
Oh yeah, maybe there will be, just because there's so many different parts of it. Because just
Yeah.
the very beginning of it's just talking about jealousy and all this, but then
Yeah.
you get into what happened to him when he was in Egypt and all
Right.
these false accusations and
So there's actually
all this other stuff.
I would really recommend if you are nerdy like me and don't watch TV and, are just like, I want to do Bible study all the time. Then the Bible Project has really, really in-depth Bible study. I have not done it, but I am like working
they have
towards
good videos with it because they always do good video, and they have a podcast.
It's actually it's actually just like filming what it would honestly feel like a seminary class. It's like filming a small group. It's Dr. Tim Mackey, who is one of the like founders of the Bible Project, and he's a scholar on especially Hebrew literature. So he teaches the class there. It's a 29 session course. I think it's like 12 or 16 hours of work through the story of Joseph, and they have lots of other ones. But if you want to dive deeper into this, like this is what I'm saying when I'm saying like I can't believe we tried to shove all of this in one sermon, because you could make 29 sessions out of this.
No, you and Pat, when you're all trying to give a summary, because you can't just go into it. You got to give the background.
You have to give the backstory.
Pat, like, he shared for a while, and he even made a joke saying, like, all right, y'all, like, the sermon really is halfway done, and we're just now getting to the scripture.
Yeah, right.
Like,
That's how I felt.
He was like, I had to sum up all this stuff.
That's how I felt. It's crazy. So I kind of hate that we... had to do this in one sermon, and it's funny because we've shared the story of Joseph and his brothers, this part of the story, I think a few times since I've been here. And every time I think to myself, we need to like make this a series, and then we forget, and move on with life, and then somehow put it back into a sermon series rotation. And then I'm starting to write the sermon and I'm like, wait a minute, why did we do this? So anyway, it's a huge story, and if you want to like really nerd out, I super recommend doing one of these Bible Project classes and doing the 29 sessions on it. But if nothing else, I did challenge everybody to just read this story, Genesis 37 through 50, and just take the time this week. It's like 14 chapters. Just take the time and read it. Because it's so much there, and it's a difficult story, but it's really good. So,
but y'all, so let's talk about the sermons, and because I think it's so interesting because Pat focused more on Genesis 50, and he did 15 through 21, and it was all about the forgiveness of the brothers, but you did it like a couple of chapters earlier,
45,
but it still dealt with that,
right?
I don't know where Carl.
Carl went through a lot of the backstory as well, because I know that y'all can't visibly see this, but like people slowly starting to like sit back in their chairs a little bit more and more. Not like, groaning on, but like eyes widening that there is so much context to this story. But what I got towards like the snap at the end was like deep rooted in forgiveness. So I think the message was received really well. But that was more his side.
Which I think that's kind of the main thing, because the feud was these brothers were jealous, and so jealous that they just wanted to kill them. But then they're like, oh, wait, we can make money off of this, so let's just sell them into slavery.
Right.
Which young Chad, I always like sharing this, young Chad was always confused by the story, because I was like, wait, I thought Jonah was swallowed by the whale. But this is Joseph being thrown into a whale.
This is because you grew up in East Texas.
We're talking about Joseph and the whale, everybody.
Joseph and the whale.
Joseph was put in the whale. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know two people got swallowed by a whale.
Oh, well, how do they say whale?
Whale?
Whale and whale?
Yeah, I guess so. So I was always confused by this, and then I was like, oh, wait, that's a water whale.
You gotta be able to read in order to understand
This isn't like one of them humpback whales. This is a water whale where you get water.
Oh, my gosh.
So he always confused me. But he was thrown into the well.
The well.
And sold into slavery, and then like years later.
Right. So this is just so long. I mean,
because they didn't recognize him.
Right?
him.
He'd grown up.
How old do you think he was? Do we have an idea of how old the youngest brother, who would have been the favorite, and like, I mean, could he have been like even a teen yet? Because usually by a teen,
I don't know.
Looks like, unless he grew facial hair or something. But yeah, so he must have been just young, and many years go by, and they don't recognize him in the palace as like one of the head honchos, like one of the leading people of like the government, really. So did you find something?
No, I mean, I just Googled really quick, so this is probably not super accurate. But
Donny Osmond was this old when he played Joseph.
I mean, like at minimum, like he went from like teenage years to adulthood, and you know, so like he was unrecognizable. He's also like, you know, you got to think his brothers to some degree, you know, like he could have been killed at a certain point. Like, you know, being sold into slavery was not just like, okay, we'll go have a different type of lifestyle. Like this could have been.
He's gone.
Yeah. Like
or he was sold to someone else, or he was.
Like he could have been somewhere, you know, like far, far, far away. Or he could have been, he could have died at some point. Like, you know, just non-compliance usually for someone in servitude is like death, typically. In this time period. So that could have been the case. And they sort of just, you know, had washed their hands of it to some degree.
Yeah, he's gone.
He's gone. Yeah. But I will say, when I say that, you know, what you find in the story is that like they never really washed their hands of it. Like what you ended up finding is like, and it really didn't dig into this. Like, it doesn't give you like narrative, you know, in the time that Joseph is gone, that it's like, you know, flashback to the brothers and they're like, we're really sorry that we did that, you know? But you can find this through the dialogue and through sort of like these tests that Joseph kind of does, you know, as they come back and he sees them again, and he, you know, is kind of like messing with them and kind of like testing them to see, are they truly repentant? Like, have they changed? Or are these the same people that just got rid of him? And through some of that dialogue, you can tell that, like, they never truly washed their hands of it. Like, it changed their family. Like, I think, you know, when you read it, when you look at the story, even if they were not, like, you know, just they weren't fully repentant enough that they were transparent, because even like what Pat talked about in Genesis 50 is the point when the brothers, that Jacob had died, the father died, and so they're like, oh my gosh, what if now that Jacob is dead, now that our father's dead, Joseph's gonna, you know, turn his back on us because he was just in it to get his to get dad back, right? And now he's gonna hate us, and he hasn't truly forgiven us. And it turned out that Joseph was like, no, I truly have forgiven you. Like, don't, you know, like there's no, bad blood.
Good.
Everything's good.
Yeah, no bad blood.
But, you know, at that point, they still, you know, were deceptive and pretended that that Jacob had written a letter saying, forgive your brothers for what they did. You know, and that was still a deceptive move on their part, you know, saying like, well, if we'll just make it like dad says that he has to forgive us. That was his dying wish. Thinking that maybe it would have been the other way. So they never owned
Daddy
up.
says to forgive us.
They never owned up to Jacob, right? Like, from what we understand, that story never came out. So Joseph never said anything. The brothers never said anything. And you kind of wonder, like, can you be truly repentant if it's just like this big secret, like, you know, that like you never fessed up to the people that needed to know?
The difference between forgiving and forgetting, like they're just trying to hide it and forget it even happened, but you don't really get peace that way.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Right. They never told Jacob, you know. So there was this level of unrest, I think, for them for a long time, right? And I think that is sort of the thing within them that Jacob saw. And so I like talked about Genesis 45. What's interesting is at this point in the story, like if you go back to the beginning of the story when Joseph is sold into slavery, Judah is the one who comes up with this plan. His brother Judah is the one that comes up with this plan to sell Joseph into slavery. And then when we get to the, you know, towards the end of the story in 44, this is where we see Benjamin hadn't been with them prior to this. Benjamin hadn't been with them, so he sends them back to go get Benjamin, the youngest brother, which is Joseph's full brother. Like, he's not the half brother, right? Like, this is his his same mom, same dad, because it was Rachel. And if you remember the story, Jacob, this is all just favoritism. Like, Jacob loved Rachel more than his other wives, which is like the fact that he has multiple wives in the first place.
We all have our favorite wife.
That's right. Yeah. So the fact that he has multiple wives.
Mine is Sable.
Yes.
That's a good answer.
Good answer. Yeah.
Do you think you're Justin's favorite wife?
I sure hope so. Just the multiple wives thing, like, polygamy is always like, you see it in scripture. And I remember a professor talking about this once, that it's like, people are like, well, it's in the Bible. And they're like, yeah, it's in the Bible, but does it ever work out?
Yeah.
No. You've got to look at the larger picture here. Like, it's like when God created, Adam and Eve, like, he didn't say, like, here, Adam, here's like Eve 1 and 2 and 3, right? Like,
he only had so many ribs, okay?
True.
He can only sacrifice so many.
Take him out of Eve,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
I like how even, we just did the story not too long ago, and no label, but we did Hagar.
Oh, we're going to talk about that in this series,
Are
too.
you? Like, Abraham and Hagar and Sarah, like, because even with the permission from Sarah, hey, here's Hagar, Abraham, I mean it. No, I'm not bothered by this at all.
And she was horrible.
Nope. She is devastated by it. It's like,
no.
Geez.
It's right. So this is never good, but so Rachel is Jacob's favorite wife. Well, Rachel, passes away at some point prior to all of this. And so Benjamin and Joseph are like all that's left. So Joseph and Benjamin are like his prized possessions. And what you see in the story too is like he wouldn't send Benjamin with the other brothers, because he was afraid that something would happen to Benjamin, right? Yeah. So it's still
Benjamin was younger, right?
He was younger, but he wasn't like, I think at this point he wasn't like, so young. He probably was, old enough that he could have gone.
I mean, they stopped calling him Benny, and now he was Benjamin. He's grown up.
But he's got this trauma, right, of like he lost the other son, and so he's like holding on super tight to Benjamin. Yeah. So there's like a lot of just turmoil within this family. Like, there's a lot of
Finding Nemo.
Yeah,
I was very protective of Nemo.
Exactly.
He survived, and
right. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like Benjamin is, there's not a lot of content on that, but you could do some like family systems theories around around Benjamin and some of the post trauma kind of experience that he probably had, but. So he comes back. The Joseph sends the brothers back from Egypt to bring back Benjamin, and it was sort of this whole ploy, like I'll only believe you if you bring the other brother back, and all of this. So he and this is all part of his testing. Brings Benjamin back, and then in their they have their little sacks that they're carrying the grain in and everything, and Joseph hides a goblet, a silver goblet, in the
he plants it on him.
Plants it in Benjamin's sack, and then is like has one of his servants go and check the sack, and then when he checks Benjamin's, he's like, oh, he stole this. Now he has to be my servant. This is his punishment. Is he has to be my servant. You have
such a prankster,
right? And so what you see is this sort of like the turning the tables, like, Joseph's in this position of authority, still don't know that it's him, but it's like there's a threat that Benjamin, right, the brother of Joseph, is going to have to be sold into slavery, or given over, not sold, like they're not going to get anything for it. Like, this is the punishment. They know this relationship that Jacob has, this the trauma that has been within the family. They know all of this. And And so Judah, what we see in this moment is like Judah speaks up and he has this long soliloquy about like how this would break his father's heart. And like, we've done all these things. We're not bad people. You know, we've made mistakes. He even like sort of alludes to, he alludes to Joseph, dying, or being gone and, whatever had happened to him. We've already lost his brother. Our father will be devastated. Take me instead. That's like I will go instead. So we see Judah, who initially sells, is the one who comes up with the idea to sell Joseph into slavery. And we see him sacrificing himself instead. And so that's the moment when Joseph was like, they've changed, right? Like this is the repentance. This is the change of heart. It was never an apology, which I think is so interesting, is that like there was never a realization like, it's Joseph, we're so sorry for what we've done to you. Like that didn't really happen, right?
Yeah.
Like it was just seeing the change in their life, like that they are not out for themselves. They are not treating Benjamin the way they treated Joseph, even though Benjamin is clearly now the favored child, right? They are not doing the same things. And so he sees this turnaround and that's enough for him. And so he then has this outburst, and that's in 45 that I focused on, where he just is like, it's me, is our father still alive? And then what I think is so wild about this story too is the amount of forgiveness. And I don't know if amount is really the right word here. It's not only forgiveness, it's like blessing. It's like provision. And that's why this story, I mentioned in the sermon, like scholars often use this story as sort of this allegory for redemption and through Jesus, because it's like, not only, it's like this little turn towards repentance. Like that's all it takes is like the turn towards repentance. And then as soon as that happens, it's like, okay, you are now forgiven, but not just forgiven. Like it's like slate is clean, but like now, like I want to just, the Father and the Son pour these like riches and blessings upon this family. Like that's what happens with Joseph and Pharaoh. It's like the best of all of Egypt is yours just because you are part of Joseph's family. It's like just because we are part of Jesus' family, we are adopted into the family of God through Jesus. Like now it's like, okay, like you are, the whole kingdom is yours, So it's this beautiful story.
Oh yeah. And that's what even Pat said, like, and it's so interesting to think like, this is Genesis, right? Mm-hmm. And it's so gospel-like, right? Like just what you were saying.
Yeah.
And I know Pat really stressed that.
Right.
Because I don't know. And then you get into talking more about like, think about our family feuds today.
Right.
And
right.
how good are we at forgiving like this? And it's just heartbreaking. I have people in my family. Some of them are kind of more distant, but like when I hear about moms and daughters who haven't talked to each other for years, it's just like, and they live in the same town, in like a small town, and somehow it's just like, how do you do that?
Right. It's hard.
But some of them they do that, and I guess I don't know the full story and what they're going through, but it's just heartbreaking no matter what. It's like, well, that's just a shame. Yeah.
And I think like one thing that was difficult in this story is that, and I think difficult for a lot of us, is that this story ended well. Like this story ended with that beautiful restoration, family reunited. Like it wasn't
reunited and it feels so good.
Musical moment. It's like it wasn't like there was all of this, like conflict and trauma, like to lead up to like finally, some sort of reconciliation, but maybe not reunion, maybe not restoration, right? Like this is true restoration. Like they are coming back. The family is together. He's like, I want you here. I want you near. We are like, things are better than they'll ever be because like now Joseph Joseph's like, I've got it. Like I'm going to provide for y'all. Like, like you are going to have the best of everything.
The best thing that happened to me was being thrown into that whale.
Right. It's like, and it's like God just works through bad things, right? Like, and that's what that's a different sermon, but like that's part of this story. But the thing about this story is that like it ends so beautifully, and that's not always the way it is with ours. We don't always experience that kind of forgiveness from someone else, or we, oftentimes have a hard time repenting or forgiving someone else. And it really has to be on both sides. And that is what's so hard. Like you have to have this completely humble, putting God at the center of your life and the center of the relationship. That was the thing with Joseph's family, was that like, his brothers needed to, be provided for. There was a famine, right? They were in a place of desperation. They were in a place.
And he could have just not helped them.
Right. He could have been like,
some sort of revenge on them, something.
Right. And he didn't, right? He chose this act of forgiveness, knowing like, it wasn't about him. It wasn't about the family. It was about God. It was about God's plans. Like God has plans for our family. God has plans for me to save, be part of saving people from this famine. Like this is part of.
For I know the plans I have for you.
Yes.
You want to read your arm?
I have the whole thing out.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually micro text here. Yeah.
It's all just the words.
Ethan has Jeremiah, what is it?
29:11.
Tattooed on his wrist. The whole thing.
The whole thing.
In King James. And,
King James.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. But I think, that's what's a really hard thing about this story is that, and what we'll find in the other stories, like, next week, it won't be like that. It's not this like reunion and restoration. Yeah. Like but it's a different type, right, of forgiveness that we're going to see. And in the other weeks to come, there may be none at all. Like it's not like always resolution to conflict.
Some of these I'm always like, what are we supposed to learn from this? Like some of these stories is like, what are we supposed to do with this? Because sometimes the message is just all over the place, and not everything has to be like these weren't created to be fables with like these nice little like, oh, here's the lesson here. Here's like sometimes they're stories. Here's what happened, or here's how people saw and experienced God, and it's just like
they are multifaceted, right? Like we can, of course, turn the text like a gemstone and see the different sides of it, and it's endless. Like there's so much in it. But yeah, we have to really dig into it. Like there's a couple weeks coming up that I'm like in preparation for this, I'm like, what am I wanting to how am I wanting to turn this and show this for like this particular series, and in our particular context, like it's different than it was for the ancient world that we're reading these words or hearing these words. So I think like with this story, the thing that I wanted to convey is that this type of restoration, like it is possible. And a lot of people will think, they have this hopeless mindset of a broken family, and they're like, it's just like, it just can't be this way. And I'm like, but it can. It is possible. The reality is that like if both parties involved can have this place where they put down their pride and they seek, forgiveness and repentance, and they come to each other in humility and love and grace, like it is possible. But the problem is that we often won't do that.
But vengeance is so much better.
Yeah.
Having revenge, it just feels so much better.
But this is where, too, we talked about like the family of God, because this is, we connected this to the church and Confirmation Sunday too, that the family of God is messy, and the family of God takes a lot of grace, and it takes a lot of humility. And like, we didn't talk about it on Sunday, but like we saw this like massive split in just our denomination. And this is one of like many that have happened in other denominations and like in the family of God and the church for, generations. Like this tends to happen. And I know how hard that was. Like this was not an easy, like, blessing each other on their journey every time. Sometimes you'd see that in the split, but oftentimes it was the end of friendships and relationships. And, you know, there's a lot of healing that still needs to be done in, you know, between with our split that just happened. But it's possible. Like it is possible to, you know, to find that kind of healing, you know, and it's got to come from both sides.
Yeah. Well, next week it should be a pretty simple one as we talk about Jacob and
Esau,
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. There it is.
Yeah, that'll be easy.
Yeah. Jacob and Esau. That's the one I was thinking of. Was like, what's the lesson here? Even as a little kid, I was just like, what are we supposed to learn from this? Because
that's a
hero
difficult
is
story.
very deceiving.
Yeah.
And anyways, but
it's a difficult story, but
it kind of starts all this because we're kind of going in reverse here because here's Jacob.
Right. This is Jacob. We're going back to Jacob's origin
kind of like
story.
Star Wars. We're going to the prequel now. And we're going to see Jar Jar show up. And
you know, one thing that I do think, one last thing that I wanted to say about the story of Joseph, I just think is interesting for further research and further things to lean into, because we're going to also talk about Isaac and Ishmael, Sarah and Hagar, right? Like, so, you know, Sarah has Isaac eventually, but first came Ishmael with Hagar from Abraham. And it's interesting. Joseph is sold into slavery to the Ishmaelites.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I've noticed that.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of this really interesting, way to look at, or facet, right, to look at the story, because, you know, he ends up in Egypt, right, and I'm not sure where all the Ishmaelite. I'd have to do more research on that, but like they find a home in foreign land, right, and they grow into the Israelite family in foreign land, and they have, like, you know, Joseph has a solid relationship with Pharaoh in this foreign land, and it's, you know, like you said, this is very gospel like. It's like, even looking at that part of the story, how it's like bridging into that foreign territory, and you have this like this family expansion that like is, you know, brings other, you know, Gentiles, right, like into the story, before Gentile is really like a term in the Bible, right? They're part of this story, and it you know, and like it ends in this like happy little place,
and they're always going to live happily ever after in Egypt.
Contraire.
And then comes the next book.
That's right.
Exodus.
That's right. Yeah.
Anyway,
right. Little tidbit.
I know. Well, join us next week as we continue on that, talking about Family Feud. This is also a special Sunday, and this is one of the reasons why we had Ethan here, was to talk about, because this past Sunday was also Confirmation Sunday. You know, I do love that, Chrissy, you threw in there, like, because you were talking about how messy families are and all that, and you were telling, like, now these students here, are y'all ready to join this messy family of a church? Which is real, like...
It's real!
It's kind of like, hey, we know we're all messed up, and we know we all need help and all this, but hey, are you wanting to do that with us?
Yeah.
And so, Ethan and I got to experience, the whole church got to experience Confirmation Sunday. This was Ethan's first time here at the church. So, Ethan, how did things go over at West Campus? And what do we need to know about, like, kind of what happened with Confirmation?
Beautiful. I think the ceremony went really well. I had all of my confirmands at the back of our sanctuary, getting, you know, handshakes and photos taken. So they really got to feel like they were getting to join in the Messy family. And it's something that I've stressed with them is, you know, if you can't make a certain event or if you can't make a certain group, that's okay. Just knowing that you're involved and knowing that you have dreams and hopes and aspirations for St. Peter's and for the UMC, for God's family. That is the most important part. And I believe I said that as I was explaining the gifts and, you know, the significance of the ceremony was just like your involvement is what is so important here, and your dedication with your busy schedules, but being able to allocate a part of yourself and just being that dedicated presence is what confirmation is really about. And just wanting to be part of St. Peter's, being part of the UMC, wanting to see growth.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, and it's always great, especially because we've been doing the confirmation pathway, and just these students have been able to be a part of all the life of the church throughout the school year. They've got to experience all these different things, and then having our conversations with them, asking them if they're ready. And it was interesting hearing all their responses and what they found interesting and what they're ready for. And some of them, even when they said like, yeah, I don't know, I still don't feel like I know everything. I'm like, well, do you want to learn more? Yeah. All right. Well, come on. Like,
that's right. That's what we're here
part
for.
Of it. Like, if you said you had it all figured out, I'd be like, okay, well, what did you have figured out?
Yeah.
Can you teach me? Like, but yeah, and that's what I hope that students get and the rest of the congregation get. This is also family worship Sunday, so I hope that some of the children there got to see like, oh wow, here's this that I could be up there confirming my faith as well someday. And so it really was good, and it's always a good thing to celebrate with the rest of the church, and just always looking forward to continue meeting with these students, and as they continue to be a part of the rest of the church and grow and all that. So so it was really good. All right, well, let's get to our ministry shout out. We are going to, I guess confirmation could be a shout out, but we're also shouting out to because there's been a big push lately, and I'm really glad because everyone needs to know about this ministry, but Stephen Ministry.
Yeah.
And we may have done that before here on the podcast, but Stephen Ministry, someone told me, St. Peter's itself is like 43 or coming up on 45 years old, right? And I think they said Stephen Ministry's been around for 30 years.
Yeah. I think like over 30 years at this point. Yeah.
And Stephen Ministry's done it all sorts of other churches. I remember a church, I think it was in Pasadena, a United Methodist church there. They had their own entrance with a whole sign out in front saying Stephen Ministry.
Wow.
So people knew they could go into that door, and they knew they could. So it could be different levels on whatever church. I know here at our church, you could look around and see people wearing a blue polo shirt or like a button-up shirt, and it has a Stephen's Ministry logo on it.
Or their blue name tag.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what this is these are people who are here to listen and just to be there for you. Yes, the whole church is doing that, right, but they are specially trained.
Yeah, it's like intense training.
Yeah.
It's like, so just for context, my Master's of Divinity degree was like 76 hours, I think. And they do, I think, like somewhere over 50 hours of training. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
They are not therapists. They are not like counselors in that way, but they are these trained church members who are here to listen to you, support you, love you during some of the hardest times you may be going through. So things if you are dealing with job loss, family troubles, family feuds, maybe.
Family feuds.
Maybe you're going through a time of sickness and illness. Maybe you're having financial problems. Maybe you're having these are, it's all over the place that they are people that you could reach out to and talk to. And I'm sure they can even give you some resources and point you into some other directions as well.
And it's for the whole community too.
Oh yeah.
Which is great.
So not just church members, and it's just so if you know someone who may need someone to talk to and all that. So yeah, so these are people who really care, and they really, they take it seriously. It's all confidential, so you don't need to worry about. There's no Stephen's Ministry podcast where they come, hey, so this Ethan guy, he came and told me he was dealing with this.
Oh, not Chad again.
Yeah, his boss Chad is a jerk.
Oh, no.
But no, it really is a wonderful, beautiful ministry. So so Stephen's Ministry, and so whether you want to get involved and learn how to do it and be a part of it, I'm sure they're always looking for people. But then if you just need someone to turn to as well, they're there for you. So
yeah.
Well, all right. Well, Ethan, thank you for joining us.
Always happy to be here.
Yeah.
It's great having you on again.
I know.
We'll try not to wait so long till the next time.
Yeah, I guess so.
I know.
Yeah, usually I don't. Yeah, he has to earn his way.
You can't burn me out, and I've got to earn my way on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you could break Morris's guest appearances record. But anyways, but yeah, so y'all join us next week as we talk about Jacob and Esau and all sorts of other stuff here on the Next Day podcast.
See you next time.
Bye.